I call Sarah Dowie.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, it is. It's a pleasure to rise after such a spirited contribution from Mr. Mark, and I'm sure he won't need to go to the gym tonight with all that riling. But I understand from the Select Committee Chair, Mr. Scott Simpson, that none of this was actually raised in the Select Committee, which is the appropriate place to discuss the pros and cons of this bill. But anyway, I digress, and it is a pleasure for me, as I said, to rise and take a call as the newly elected Deputy Chair of the Local Government and Environment Select Committee. And also, it's a pleasure because as a Southern MP, one of the two MPs that represent Southland, remoter communities and only 97,000 odd people across an entire region, it's interesting to in turn study a bill with respect to local government administration in the super city, then in contrast with the goings-on of what happens in Southland, Mr. Speaker. So, of course, this bill is the Local Government Auckland Council Amendment Bill number 3, sponsored by Mr. Alfred Naro, and the prime aim of this bill is to prevent candidates serving on multiple local boards at any one time. So the premise is only one person on one board at any one time. And the basis for it is to mitigate potential conflicts of interest and basically spread the load and get people or the representation of different local boards securely in the hands of locals so that they get better decision making and better outcomes for their community. So I think that this comes off the back of the Auckland demographic, which I think we need to take time to discuss because it does present a unique set of challenges for administration of the super city. And of course this bill is tailored specifically for that. So if you look at Auckland, it contains 1.5 million people, 1.5 million people, and 1/3 of New Zealand's population live in that region, compared to 97,000 people that live in the district of Southland. So you couldn't get, well, it's not everything, and we certainly have our benefits and our strengths down in Southland, but you couldn't really get two polar opposite communities compared and contrasted right now. And you know, Auckland is one of the most culturally diverse communities. A lot of migration, not only from Pacifica and Asia, but from further afield, and that's a strength in itself. But it goes to show that there does need to be a strong representation from our community local boards to get the best outcomes for those diverse pockets of people and communities. As I said, compare that to Southland. Invercargill holds only 50,000 people, and we certainly can't boast the same migrant stats as what Auckland does when we talk about diversity. In fact, if it wasn't for the 2,000 odd Filipino farm workers that came to Southland last year, our population would be going backwards. So we're very grateful for that diversity, but it certainly is not in the same vein as what Auckland experiences. So as I said before, Auckland is a very diverse community. It has pockets of different ethnicities, different ages. It's quite a varied demographic, and we need to get the best outcomes via local boards with diverse representatives on those boards. So local boards in Auckland should not be controlled by a select few individuals. And on those local boards, of course, they're responsible for a number of functions, but the issues of administration range from things such as transport, infrastructure, event planning, and even some social issues. So when you look at the broad scope of duties that those representatives must administer, it would be very hard to find a person that could tick all the boxes to represent all of the community and effectively manage and deliver on those tasks. And because Auckland has a large population, and because there's really strong and wide-ranging education and employment opportunities in Auckland, that is a real asset. So there really is no need for one individual to be on multiple boards. So again, we come back to that concept, one person on one board at any one time. And I actually think that this is a real opportunity for Auckland if this bill passes, because it's an opportunity to bring through our young aspiring leaders. And I think that, Auckland has a really good talent pool available there. And if you can bring those young leaders through, it means that there's fresh ideas coming to the fore. There's a richer contribution of ideas and better problem solving, and that of course brings about better solutions and delivery of the functions that are required within Auckland. I understand from the select committee process that there was 17 submissions, with the majority in support of this bill. 17 submissions, and one submitter, of course, was the Auckland City Council. And the key bases of their submission was threefold. Firstly, to mitigate the conflicts of interest of representation between constituencies, to have local interests truly represented. So that's what I was talking about before with given that Auckland is so diverse and has diverse communities and pockets of people throughout the city, that locals should be making local decisions. But on a practical note, I miss you, Ms Dyson. I miss you in government in Man. I've been brought onto local government and I'm really enjoying my charge here, but I'm loving my contribution to this bill actually. It's fascinating. I do. I'm very earnest about this. I'm earnest about it. But the third point brought about by the Auckland City Council was that it's quite a practical point, is that they recognised that board members' workloads were actually quite heavy, and that those workloads needed to be shared so as to be more effectively managed. So that means, sharing it across different people, so that they can bring about better decisions and better delivery of solutions for that community. So again, one person on one local board at any one time. And I think too that this presents another opportunity for Auckland in that it can start to bring through more women to boards, which is a fantastic opportunity to encourage more women to come onto boards and utilise their skills and grow in a leadership capacity. And of course, that adds to, we don't have to go far to look for research that supports that the more diverse a board, the better decision making. So that contributes to a more meaningful gender equality. So creating space on boards will do that, and that's a positive progression for not only women but for young aspiring leaders. One of the main points, as I said before, is that this bill is tailored for Auckland, and I think that should be noticed. In contrast, if you look at a place like Southland, in fact, I would dissent a little, and I wonder whether it would work there. We have a limited amount of people in Southland, and often there are time pressures on the people that put their hand up for civic duty. And so what often happens is that some of the people that put their hand up for that civic duty end up wearing two hats. And while local boards are unique to Auckland, we still in Southland have varied roles in our community boards and different licensing trusts and other boards that are out there. But one person will often put their hand up twice or even 3 times. But I think, notwithstanding the pitfalls that have been described here that could occur in Auckland, Southland's strong sense of community often rides through, and that creates a really unique opportunity for us as well. Given that we are tight-knit and there is a real desire to move Southland forward, often those individuals that are wearing 2 hats, they almost evolve with their statutory duty and their capacity and skill, and that does give them the ability to serve on multiple boards. So with all of the information in hand, Mr. Speaker, I support this bill.
Well done, Sarah.